January 13th meeting of the Shelby Township Planning Commission to order. Ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Mr. Deschaux. Mr. Long.
Here.
Ms. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Casali. Here. Mr. Turner.
Here.
Mr. Apone.
Here.
Mr. Larray.
Here.
Chairman Moffett, we have a quorum.
Thank you. First item is approve of the agenda.
So move.
Been moved and supported.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item, approve of the minutes from the December 9th meeting.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Three items of note this evening. First being site plan number 24-25, Tony Gallo. Is the petitioner or representative here?
Present. Present.
Anyone who speaks and just need name and address and then sign in when you're done speaking.
Thank
you. Okay. What are you requesting of this body, and state whatever reasons you wish.
Thank you. Good evening. Tony Gallo on behalf of the petitioner. I have with me Ben Loya tonight, legal counsel. Mark Shovers, our licensed architect, and Andy Wakeland from Giffords Webster Engineering. Tonight we are here to present to you Town Center Villas 3. It is proposed to be the final phase and final building that would be built within that development. It would complete our construction there. And we are requesting permission to construct a three-story residential structure, multifamily in nature, and it would contain 24 units. And we are proposing to install that where is currently an open space park, and we will relocate and still comply with any and all of the open space requirements. You can see the drawing here that has a rendering shown, the front elevation. The next plan delineates where we're proposing the building to be. If you note, Town Center Villas 1 is to the south, also to the northwest. We just completed Town Center Villas 2. That is now complete and open for business. And the third and final phase of the building is what is shown there on the plan is Town Center Villas 3. The next just shows a rendering and parking view, rear parking. Again, in elevation, the brick is comprised of primarily a brick material. There are some complementary vinyl, products, and all maintenance-free exterior, 100%. It mimics what we built in Town Center 2. It's a very similar building, a sister building to that building. It's another view. This is where we're proposing to move the park, which will be to our western portion of the land that is currently a dog park area. There is an easement that runs through there. There's several easements that run through there. We are proponents of having a park there, of having open space for the community to use. And the structures that we propose there are proposed without any footings whatsoever. That would be a slab on construction, and so no permanent structures. If we are granted approval, we would be willing to enter into an agreement with this township that if the areas were ever disrupted or disturbed with the easements, for example, the sanitary sewer or storm sewer, that our company would be responsible for restoring the area to its original condition at our expense. That shows a view facing the existing product that is across the street. Those are the townhome units that we constructed directly across the street. And that's the last slide. And we believe, based upon our understanding of the ordinance here and based upon our review, when we designed the project, I asked my team to develop a plan that met all of the adopted codes and ordinances. And it's our position that we do meet all of the adopted codes and ordinances. And if we don't, certainly, we will hear from this body. But in a nutshell, that's our request, and we're here to answer any questions. Ben?
Just a few things. We've been through a process. We've actually met with the staff on this issue. As this Planning Commission knows, there's been a couple phases of this. There was phase 1, which this body approved a site plan, and then phase 2, which this body approved a site plan. I think for the first time we're hearing that the PUD elements apply, that we actually are going to be evaluated under the PUD standard. I mean, we respectfully disagree with that. We feel like this should be simply a site plan review. If this body is going to follow the recommendation, and I'm sure it will, of the planner, even if it was evaluated under the PUD standards, we believe that this meets the elements of a PUD as outlined in your ordinance, specifically 3.37A 1 through 4, which it encourages innovation in land use, in variety of design, layout, and type of structure constructed. It achieves economic and efficient uses of all the land, including the open space on the western part of the property. It encourages the provision of useful open space, which we've done here, and it provides better housing opportunities for the needs of the township. And so this has been a very popular development. Mr. Gallo has, your occupancy rates are very successful there. 99% occupancy rate, so we believe that we would meet all of those objections to the PUD if this board was to utilize those factors, which have never been used for any of its phases to date. And we're here for any questions.
Okay, ask the planner for her comments.
Thank you, Chairman. So, first of all, to answer Mr. Aloya's question, all the developments in this area, originally we started off with Shelby Town Center, and this project began in 1999. Now, due to some outside factors out of our control, there was some variations and modifications in this whole area from the original Shelby Town Center development plan, which we all recognize and understand. However, all the developments that came in after the fact have been done as a PUD. Redwood development came in as a PUD. The Lakeside Boulevard North Apartments came in as a PUD. The development that is at the southeast corner of Market Street and Lakeside Boulevard also came in as a PUD over all the years. So when Mr. Gallo originally came in for his products on 1 and 2, we did do that as a site plan, and that was only because those buildings were originally supposed to be there. The infrastructure was already there, the slabs were already there. So there wasn't much modifications to those except for the elevations perhaps. But those buildings that he was proposing there were originally planned for that whole development. And that's why we just, we were fortunate that Mr. Gallo came in and proceeded development with those projects. So with that being said, this is an addition of 24 multiple units that is being put on top of a park. Now, we can argue if that's permitted or not, because throughout the years, the variations in this plan always required that, never changed. That park was always, Manning Park and Gibbs Park. That's part of also this development. So throughout all the reiterations over the years since 1999, that space has remained open space for that development. With that being said, there's a number, even if we went and wiped the slate and said, okay, let's start over on this project, and now we have a new development, this is adding, this whole building that was never part of the original plan, it still has to conform with Section C5, multi-use zoning district standards, in addition to, like I said, have the plan unit development standards apply. Also, the multiple family, there are 12 multiple family low-rise district standards also come into play on this, and the other comments, of course, from the Department of Public Works. So with that being said, with the PUD process, 10% has to be open space in addition to providing recreation area for the different types of units. Our 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units require a specific amount of open space and recreation for this development. So with that being said, I'm not sure, we did meet with Mr. Gallo last week and his engineer. They identified the open space area calculations that they believed were correct. We're seeing a little different on that. You cannot have open space or recreation areas in easements. Where Mr. Gallo is proposing to put the park over on the west side of the development, it is in the 50-foot perimeter setback easement. So just from a standpoint from the zoning ordinance, that's not permitted. That's all I have.
Any comments on parking? Because that is an issue in that area.
From our conversations with Mr. Gallo, he, I believe it was 57 parking spaces he is over. Now, I don't know where those 57 parking spaces are located, if they are in excess on the north side, on the south side. Throughout his development, I'm not exactly sure where those 57 spaces, to be honest with you. I didn't do an analysis of the overall development, but for what he is proposing, he does meet the parking for the building he is proposing.
Okay. I guess to the board, does anyone have any questions?
Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Gallo, how are you?
Good evening. To the chair.
What's the square footage for these 24 units? Are they all going to be same square footage, or is one bigger than the other?
They are bigger than the other. We have a one-bedroom product and a two-bedroom product, and Mark Shovers, you can answer the square footage. It's similar to what we have out there existing. Go ahead, Mark. Introduce yourself.
Good evening. Mark Shovers, Spar Design Group. The one-bedroom units are 655 square feet, and the two-bedroom units are 919 square feet.
What's the rents ranging from?
The rents in our community start at about $1,500 to $2,200 a month.
And you have expected date of completion, start to complete of this
It would be
project?
Well, it would be our desire to start the project as soon as possible, once, when and if we receive approval. And I would tell you that for 24 units, we could probably build that in, from the day we break ground, probably 9 to 12 months from the time in which we would finish the product.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman?
Mr. Turner?
Mr. Gallo, I need you to help me understand exactly what you're doing, and I do understand what you're doing, but I guess the reason is why you're doing it. I was on this planning commission when this was first, this whole PUD area, this whole development came in back in 1996. These parks have always been, not just this park, but parks throughout this whole development have always been a key part of this development. So now for me to see you coming in, and maybe I don't fully understand it, maybe you can help me out. For you coming in and putting another building on where there is currently a park that's been there. It's
Yes.
been there for almost 30 years. The park elements have been in this project. And then you want to relocate it to the western side in the setback area. This is a novel approach to providing open space. It's not something that I've ever seen happen. I'm trying to understand why you're trying to do it, especially when I look at what we've got here. The planner has, the ordinance has stated you can't put it in a setback. And then we've got something from our township engineer talking about open space and plaza area shall not be within the required setbacks. Additionally, I've highlighted the section indicating that recreational space is required for C5.
Yes.
This means they cannot simply designate a grass area as open space. They must include amenities to create an attractive environment for the development. You can't just pick and choose this spot of grass and that little area there is all part of the open space. That's not the intent, as I understand it, of the whole idea. And then the recreation, further, per the ordinance, the recreation area must be located. Yet you've taken one area that's been there and you locate it in a setback. To me, this is very novel. You want to talk about innovation. It's an innovative approach, but innovation doesn't mean that you can all of a sudden start reinterpreting the intent of the ordinance. So I think you need to explain to me, because you have to have me understand what you're doing, why this whole thing makes sense to you, because it does not make sense to me.
Well, thank you. Through the chair again, if I may. Commissioner Turner, thank you, number one, for the comments. And I'd be delighted to explain to you why we're doing it and how we're doing it. With respect to the parks, it is very inaccurate to say that the parks have been there for many years. When we bought the development, that was an open space area. It was not improved. There was no amenities whatsoever. As a matter of fact, there were left old tires there, debris, garbage. It was uneven. There was no grass component to it. And when we took over that development, a lot of the roads were in disrepair. So that addresses the fact that those areas, although in 1999 may have been discussed with this body, we were not a party to that. Our title work does not reflect any restriction whatsoever against a park being recorded against our privately owned property. So that addresses that particular comment. And with respect to what we've done to that area, even the park you're referring to a moment ago to the south side of the property, that's not a park. It's a piece of vacant dirt that has never been improved. There's no park there. When we came in, we put in a play set. We put in 2 grilling areas, 2 pavilions. We put in a nice seating area. We put irrigation in that area. We put brand-new sod in that area. We put site lighting in that area and other improvements. So yes, we did improve that park, and we're a proponent of the park. That park is available for our residents to use, their children to use, the visitors that come there to use it, and I'm a big proponent of that. Even some of the neighbors next door who live in the area, they use it. We don't monitor, we allow anybody to use the area. What we're simply proposing is to relocate that park further west. It is currently in an area that has a road on all 3 sides. So from a safety standpoint, if it were my child, you know, you have to basically watch on all 3 sides of the park, which is a triangular piece of property. We're proposing to move it to the west. We disagree with the interpretation that's been given that you can't improve or build a structure. You had said earlier, the ordinance says you have to build structures in that area. We are proposing the same exact thing that we have in the park now, relocating that existing swing set with no footings. It doesn't have footings. Relocating the pavilions, relocating the grilling area, enabling our clients that are living there and the folks in the community to use that area. Now, that area that you're referring to with the 50-foot wide easement, it was said a moment ago that, and also through the review, and for the record, we will comply with whatever engineering wants. Whatever their wisdom is, we're happy to comply with. They said you can't build improvements in there. Well, it's not accurate, as is evidenced by the fact that our site plan and our construction that we've already improved there has a full-blown dumpster with a 42-inch footing with gates that open and close, and it already is in that development. There's many areas within our county where a developer is able to encroach on an easement. In this particular case, there's storm water and sanitary, I believe, Andy, that run in that area. And so what we're saying is that we want, and you can build a slab over those improvements. What we're saying is we'd like the ability to move those there, have the park. It is comparable in size, by the way. It's literally 1,000 square feet difference in terms of the size of land area. So we felt that that was a very reasonable approach. When we met with the planner, they were nice enough to meet with us last week. They took time out of their schedule to meet with us. They provided their points. We provided our points in a very professional way. And it was described to us that you cannot build in this 50-foot wide easement. You cannot use that as a calculation for your open space, because we provided a very detailed accounting, inch by inch, where we're proposing the open space. It does, in fact, meet the ordinance and exceed the ordinance. So following that meeting, our team left. We respectfully disagreed with both parties agreed to disagree on the interpretation. And so what our company did as a team is we went back to the drawing board. And I had my professionals draw up a plan that showed an alternative that if, in fact, the 50-foot setback was not an area you could utilize for open space, that we would do so in another area. And we do have that plan. It has not been formally submitted. What is submitted is what is before you this evening. But we did come up with an alternative that could meet that spirit of the ordinance and could then meet the open space requirements. So the message here is that we're flexible with this body. We're flexible with planning. We're flexible with engineering. Again, it's our professional opinion, and based on my licensed architect, the licensed engineer, the planning company that we've hired, my legal counsel, and my limited knowledge of the law, we do believe that we comply with your ordinance. So, you know, in earlier, Chairman had asked about the parking. When we took over this development, parking was a significant issue there. We inherited abandoned vehicles, commercial vehicles that were parked there illegally. We really had to get into it with the association next door with enforcing parking actions, because what had happened is when the town live-work units were proposed there, what had happened was they were designed for 2 parking spaces per unit. And the parking calculations, same with my townhomes, that's required by ordinance, they would have one parking space inside the garage and one parking space outside the garage. But what had happened throughout time, and the bylaws specifically and expressly prohibit this, is for whatever reason, whether it was enforcement or any other reason, two things happen there. Number one is the folks that are living there store all their items inside the garage. So they've lost a parking space. And the more important thing that happened there, which is very germane to this subject, is that the bylaws specifically prohibit a unit owner from renting the first floor to a business owner and renting the second floor to a third-party family. And that is what was going on with the parking, on why they couldn't comply with the parking requirements. With respect to our project, we have 57 additional parking spaces throughout the whole development. This particular phase, we are overparked by one car, and we entered into an agreement with the association. We have clear, and we've worked well together. You know, originally it wasn't so well, you know, with respect to enforcement and, you know, beautification of the area. We really were sticklers on that, and we've entered into an agreement, and there's been no police action, no calls that we're aware of since we've entered into these agreements. So, you know, hopefully that addresses, you know, some of the concern.
I do have a couple points.
Yes,
to add. Mr. Turner, there's a few points I want to add. One is that the way that this development, the town center development, you have the Live Works across the street, there's the other apartments, and there's Mr. Gallo's property. This parcel, which was, you know, a parcel, is 100% owned by Mr. Gallo, 100% controlled by Mr. Gallo, and the Live Works residents, the residents across the street, don't really have any legal right to use it. He allows them to use it. He has no objection to it, but there's no master deed which creates that as an open space for the entire development. It's really only his property. And the other thing is the C5 ordinance only requires there to be open spaces for public congregation, plazas, which must be equipped or designed to allow pedestrian seating that can be easily observed and accessible from the pedestrian circulation system. So we believe actually this location is actually accessible. It's accessible by all. There's the main entrance there. And also he's exceeded what's required by the ordinance. He doesn't have to put a playscape. He doesn't have to put barbecue areas. He doesn't have to put a pavilion covering. He doesn't have to do any of that. He only has to really provide pedestrian seating areas, which is like benches and things of that nature. But he's kind of getting punished a little bit or criticized because he's gone above and beyond to beautify it for his development, and he wants to be able to provide that. The other question that we really had, and we brought this up to the planning department, is what is the benefit for this 50-foot setback? It's a 50-foot setback to residential, right? But these apartments are in fact, you know, residential in nature, and there's multifamily on the other side. So what are we accomplishing by not allowing to build anything within this usable open space area? I understand it's a setback. We're not building a building. We're not asking to put a garage. We're not asking to put a livable area. It's really for usable space for the residents. And Mr. Gallo, what he was trying to say is that we understand there's a sanitary sewer line that runs through there, but there's already a dumpster enclosure that crosses over that sanitary sewer line. So for there to say that it doesn't happen, we know it happens. In fact, you know, I do a lot of work for the county public works, and we enter into what's called encroachment agreements, similar to what Mr. Gallo said, is that because a lot of developments you can't help, you're going to go over a sewer line, a sanitary line, infrastructure. But there's an agreement that you can come into that says, look, if you have to go in there and we have to remove this, we remove it at our cost. We do it at our own risk. We're willing to do that in this situation. And because Mr. Gallo and his company control 100% of that property, he's able to do that. He's the one that's going to have to take care of that. So those are just some of the points we wanted to make.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the education on the live work. I'm well aware that it hasn't worked out the way it's supposed to. But the bigger question is, and you're not being punished or criticized for going above and beyond at all. I believe there's some questions, and you want to get into interpretation. We can disagree. We can agree to disagree. But to me, when I'm looking at what I have, it's clear that you cannot put that park in where you want to put it on the west side of the property. And we can get into an argument over whether or not the area is designated as a park, where it's supposed to be a park. Over time, maybe they weren't developed as a park, but the intent was the areas throughout here which are designated as parks were going to be parks. I know that for a fact. It's not something, now, were there old tires there? Man, maybe there was, because of whoever had the development before, maybe didn't follow through on what he had to do. But we're getting into, I guess, a semantic discussion of whether or not you're going to have a structure, or you're going to have slabs, or you're going to have a playscape, or you're going to have whatever. When I'm looking at the recreation area must be located behind the setback, and I'm getting information from the township engineer, and I'm getting information from the planner who's citing the ordinance. To me, I just don't see, I understand what you want to do, but to me, I can't see how we can make it work. So that's all I have to say at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I want to make one more comment, and we have many PUDs. I know you come through this township, and I know through the PUD process and through your conditional rezoning process, this body has the ability to vary from the ordinance. So that if the PUD process is implemented, that's something that this body can consider.
No, I understand that, but for us to say we're going to modify the ordinance to go against with the intent of the ordinance, I disagree with you on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
You made a comment regarding the park that it's actually probably not a safe place because there's cement on all three sides. When I'm looking at this layout, it looks like you're going to walk out the door and you're going to be in the street. I just don't know where the kids are going to play in here. It doesn't look like there's hardly any grass anywhere around the building. So that's just where I'm going to leave that.
Commissioner Baker? No. Commissioner Casale, did you have a comment? Or no?
I will if everyone's done.
But through the chair, if I may clarify the commissioner's concern.
Yeah.
Thank you. So to answer your question with respect to where the kid's going to play, we're proposing that they play on the west, which is shown right next to the words Harvard Drive there. And that's where we propose to move the park. What is being, and again, in terms of square footage and size, that parcel we're proposing to put it on, and the triangular piece of property, and what I mentioned was there's roads on all three sides, not walkways, but actual roads where cars drive. That was the point I was making, is that from a safety perspective, it would be more safer to have a park and or a gathering area, which whatever, open space, recreation space, however you want to say, basically on an area that is tucked away, really not with a road on all three sides. So that was the point that, you know, I was making there. But that's where the kids would play, is to the west there. And again, I don't want to confuse this body, but we do have another plan where we did move the open space just as a backup to say, okay, if this body as a whole, you know that you have the ability, if, for example, if you like the plan, this body has the ability to accept that park in the 50-foot easement. If they don't like that, then we do have another plan that we could offer that does meet the ordinance fully and does not keep that open space or take that into account at all whatsoever, and just left alone. So I just want to let you know that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So Mr. Gallo just summarized what I wanted to say about the two plans and what our options are.
Yes.
And so I would much rather see your new option that does not encroach on the 50-yard setback. But I don't know the procedure here in this meeting for a new.
No, I'm not going to comment on or act on something that has been submitted.
Right, so with the PUD process, and if that's what we're following, I guess that was my initial response, is that it's a PUD process that we follow. At this time, based on the plan that they are presenting, and being that we have not seen the other plan, the commission could either, it's just looking at a preliminary plan and deeming if this plan that they presented has merit or not. If this planning commission approves it and it has merit, it would go to the township board and they would make their recommendation. If the Planning Commission and Township Board both deem that this project has merit, then the applicant can proceed with engineering of the site plan. Once they've received engineering approval, they would come back for a final PUD review process through the Planning Commission and also the Township Board. But at that point, it would just be a formality.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay, so those comments were based on what we have seen today. Now,
Correct.
if we are not in agreement, I'm not speaking for everybody, but if we're not in agreement that we're going to allow a deviance from the ordinance and let you locate the park in the setback, then what is the procedure we would, if we deny this plan, then does the applicant have an opportunity then to resubmit another plan under a PUD process at a different date? Is that how it works?
Well, I guess I would leave that up to the township engineer. If they, I'm not sure, maybe this board would be able to postpone and come in with a different plan. We can take a look at that plan and see if that plan has merit. If they're willing to do that, I guess, Bob?
I guess that'd probably be the best and quickest way for everyone, rather than having them refile or go to the next step. If there's something that's going to be tweaked that they want to look at, I think this is the review, initial review. So we'll give you an opportunity to review that at the next meeting, whatever would be available.
Yeah, if they would like to submit modified plans, we can take a look at that, and if the planning commission chooses to do so, to give them that option, then postpone.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, make a comment.
Hang on a second.
Okay.
Nope, go ahead, I'll go after.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with respect to the drawing that we have, if you'd pull that up quickly, and I know we're not going to deliberate the plan, but I want to briefly introduce the concept. We just met with
No,
your
we'll-
planning commission or your planning staff on Friday, right? We know that it was last week that we met with, when was it, Ben, that we met with them? Thursday of last week. So after that meeting, we just went back and said, okay, how could we comply with the ordinance? And basically, this drawing depicts that here. Here, Mark. So it's pretty much the same area, locationally, and we would remove the private road that would be to the west of there, that north-south road, because there's still ingress and egress all the way around. And that particular plan that's shown there, go to the west a little bit, Mark. To the west, you will see where that 50-foot easement has absolutely nothing touched whatsoever. It's not used in our calculation for open space. It's not used for our calculation for recreation space. And so to address that comment of you can't build in a 50-foot area, this particular plan does meet all the open space requirements. And if this body, in their wisdom, feels that they would like to table, or they want to deny this plan, or they would like to see us submit and introduce this alternative plan, we're happy to develop that.
I would say this, if we're getting the understanding that the 50-foot setback issue is a non-starter, then we would ask to table it, bring the alternative plan back. I think that would be the procedure.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Turner?
Julie, did you have any conversation with the developer about this location and what they're proposing prior to? And I asked the question because now we're given this plan. So obviously they had some understanding that what they were going to propose initially was probably not going to go through. But if they had, Well, if they had some understanding, why are we coming tonight with another plan? So they must have known that what they were proposing here was not going to work. Have you had any conversation with them about this was not such a good idea? And if you did, I'm wondering why they didn't come forth with this plan before.
No, I have not seen this plan. This came this evening, I believe after 6 o'clock, after 5 o'clock, this plan was presented to us, so I did not have an opportunity to review this plan. Like I said, we did have our meeting on Thursday, and, we discussed our differences, but I've not had an opportunity to look over this current proposal.
And the reason I said that is because this, when I see here, and I haven't really had a chance to look at it thoroughly, it looks a lot better than what is on here, but obviously it's going to take some time to review it.
So I believe they met on Thursday with Rob Huth, my partner, And then they got together, resubmitted the plan. I think Rob then sent it to me on Friday. Julie was out Friday.
Yes.
Then today I'm going through it, and I noticed she wasn't copied on that. So I said, Julie, here's the plan.
Yes.
So they didn't have this before. I think after the meeting, they got together and got this together.
Okay.
I mean, in fairness, I mean, Julie explained her position, but also she said it's up to the planning commission.
That's right.
And so we knew that the planning commission would deliberate this issue, but we also understood that what her recommendation would be. And so after the meeting, we came up with an alternative idea that we were bantering around. So that's the,
I appreciate the alternative idea, I truly do, so I just wanted to go on the record for that.
And again, through the chair, just so you know, we're not asking you to deliberate this new plan at all. It just, I want you to know that there was due consideration after the meeting. We didn't just have the meeting and say, well, we agree to disagree. We did disagree on the facts, and for the record, we still believe that we meet the intent of the ordinance. However, in order to accommodate the planner's direction and their position, because quite frankly, it's their purview, even with the PUD. It's not me as the applicant that demands something and you get it. I mean, so we're going down the road with respect to Julie and her team. And when we left the meeting, in good faith, we said, how can we still meet this ordinance? And so, as Ben said, if this body in their wisdom thinks, well, it's probably a non-starter about this park, then we would like, again, the ability to table this matter, come back with a fully developed plan for this body to get a full review from the staff, and then you could deliberate.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
I move to postpone site plan number 24-25 for Tony Gallo Companies for Town Center Villas number 3, located north of Lakeside Boulevard, east of Shaner Road, 27-unit multi-family building, to give the applicant an opportunity to provide a revised site plan addressing our concerns here raised at the meeting this evening.
Support.
Moved by Turner, support by Moore. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner LeRae?
Yes.
Commissioner Opone?
Yes.
Commissioner Dishaw?
Yes.
Commissioner Wong?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Casale?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Thank you very much. Just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, is there, when is the next hearing date that we will be, just for
Well,
scheduling?
We'll have to figure, you have to work through.
Okay, we could work with
We
planning
meet
on
the
that.
second,
Okay.
the second and fourth Mondays.
So we could work with staff on
Yes.
that. Thank you.
thank you, have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Next item, site plan number 24-19, Michelle Ventimiglia.
Good evening.
We'll try not to keep you here that long. Name, address, and what are you requesting of this body? And reasons
John
for it, please.
DeLisla, I'm with Nowak and Fraus, 48680 Van Dyke, Shelby Township, representing Mr. Michele Ventimiglia behind me here, the owner. Also was fortunate enough to be a part of the original development, which was designed back in '06. But we are proposing the building that parallels Van Dyke Avenue. We think the revisions that were made since the original plan are quite an improvement. Will add quite a bit of character to that corner, which is long overdue. We've read through some of the comments within the reviews. We responded to all of them. I believe the current plan addresses all of the concerns, including the fire department connection item. We've got a unique situation that all of the utilities and detention basin have been put in for this development. So we're really looking to build a pad in parking within that framework. If there's any questions with regard to the open space concern, we're certainly willing to agree with and come to some agreement on the use of the north end of the building, which provides an opportunity to put a walk with some benches and satisfy that. But I'll defer to the Planning Commission for any questions and the planner as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Planner for comments?
Thank you, Chairman. This project is located in the C6 Shelby Center District, just north of the CVS, right here at 24 Mile in Van Dyke. Like the engineer stated, we have undergone a preliminary review for this project. They took care of most of the comments on the site plan. The only issue is access. We asked the applicant if they would be willing to provide cross-access with the parcel to the north, which is the church facility. They redesigned their plan to meet that objective. However, at this time, there's nothing going on with the church, no proposals, but when time comes, and if time comes, they are willing to enter in some sort of agreements to provide access. So these parcels all can interconnect and be able to access each other without having to get out onto Van Dyke to access the rest of the surrounding parcels. So with that being said, the plaza area that Mr. De La Sola is talking about, for every 100 square feet of non-residential gross floor area, there shall be 1 square foot of public plaza or activity node. And as Mr. De La Sola said, on the north side of the building, there's an area where some landscaping is provided. It meets the square footage area. The only thing that I would just recommend is that perhaps they put in a table or some benches or some amenities in that area, and that would meet that requirement. As far as the building facade goes, excellent design, I may say, with glazing brick on all 4 sides of the elevations. Even the rear of the building is with elevations in brick to the top with limestone and ephes. Metal canopies along with some fabric canopies. So I can't say enough for the elevation. I mean, I think it's phenomenal. They increased the sidewalk along the front of this building to meet the C6 zoning district requirements. So I don't have any objections to this plan moving forward.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments to the petitioner? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Larray.
to approve site plan 2419 Michelle Ventimiglia for Village of Shelby at Shelby, vacant parcel 230709 478036, located north of 23 Mile Road on the west side of Van Dyke Avenue, office and retail building, subject to submission of 8 revised site plans addressing the Planning Commission departments, Planning Commission department and engineering comments.
Support.
Moved by Larray, support by Apone. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, Commissioner Larray.
Yes.
Commissioner Apone.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Commissioner Casale.
Yes.
Commissioner Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
Commissioner Deschamps.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next item, site plan, final PUD, number 24-39, Michael Magnoli. This is a public hearing, so I'll ask the secretary to read the notice as published.
Charter Township of Shelby, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission for the Charter Township of Shelby, Macomb County, Michigan, has received a request for final approval of the following planned unit development. Applicant Michael Magnoli, Great Oaks of Shelby, LLC, 59227 Van Dyke Avenue, Washington, Michigan, 48094. Proposed use, the Oaks, site condominiums, 43 units. Final planned unit development. Location, 8707 25 Mile Road, north side of 25 Mile Road, west of M53 Expressway. Final site plan, PUD 24-39, Sidwell number 23-07-03-376-007. Legal description is as follows, is published. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, January 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Shelby Municipal Building, Boardroom 52700 Van Dyke Avenue, Shelby Township, Michigan, 48316-586-726-7243, for the purpose of holding a public hearing on the final planned unit development application. The final planned unit development application and site plan may be examined at the Planning and Zoning Department in the municipal building Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Written comments may be submitted to the Planning Commission at the above address prior to the hearing. Oral comments will be heard during the public hearing. This notice is provided pursuant to the requirements of Michigan Public Act 110 of 2006 as amended. Shelby Township Planning Commission is Jerome Moffett, Chair, Raquel Moore, Secretary. This was published in the Shelby Utica News on December 18th, 2024. There were 44 property owners and 2 applicants were notified by first-class mail on December 17th, 2024.
Thank you. Mr. Kirk, did the publication meet all statutes?
Yes, it did.
Great. And quickly, could you explain the present zoning and if the special land use request is appropriate to the district?
Current zoning is R1C, which is a one-family district. This type of development is permitted in that district.
Great, thank you. The form, to the secretary, did we receive any correspondence
No,
on
we
this?
did not,
Okay, thank
Mr.
you.
Chair.
Thank you. Format for the public hearing will be as follows. The petitioner will state what the requesting is, their reasons for it. I'll then bring it back to the board to ask, for the commissioners to ask any questions of the petitioner. I will then open it up to the floor to ask any questions or make whatever comments they have to the board. We will then take those and bring the petitioner back up to ask or address anything that seems pertinent. The purposes of this process is for us to make an educated decision. It's not a debate. So we're going to try to get all information on both sides and then before we make a recommendation. With that, I see you can only charge mileage once, though, to your client
right.
from coming here.
That's right. Same client as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again, name and address and,
John DeLiso with Noah Frous, 48680 Van Dyke, Shelby Township. Yeah, we come before you this evening to request approval and also entertain the public's comment on the PUD.
can you make sure
43
you
units.
talk into the microphone? Yeah,
Sure. We are at 43 units. I believe when this project began, it was quite a bit, a few more lots, 46 or 45 units. Few challenges on the site. We've been cognizant of all the environmental issues and the space, landscape, open space as well. We believe that the plan provides an adequate and acceptable development that was intended in this space, and we would entertain any questions or concerns that the commission may have.
Okay. To the board, are there any questions or comments? Seeing none. You sit down for a moment. This is the only public hearing the Planning Commission will hold on this request. All remarks will be entered into the record for Township Board evaluation. We are a recommending body, and the Township Board will evaluate our recommendation when making its final decision on this request. This time, anyone is free to come and ask any questions. I would just state your name and address, and then make sure you sign in when you're done, please.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name's Janet Breen, live at 8500 Bellman, and my property abuts the Great Oaks project to the north. So I have about 200 feet that butts up to the green space. So I had a couple questions for the developer through the chair regarding the retention pond, because the middle branch of the Clinton goes through my property. So all of the drainage from this project will end up going through my property as well. So I'm curious about the retention pond, if it's a detention or it's not really a pond, it's just a basin. So is that a swale more than a pond? Question about that. And also, is there some delineation of the property line between their green space and my backyard? It says vacant land on the site plan, but I consider it my backyard. So I'm wondering, if there's some way that people will know I'm off the green space and now I'm on somebody's property. So those are my questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And let the record you should know better, but that there is life after the Planning Commission, because.
Be nice.
Anyone else wish to comment? Seeing none, why don't you come on up and answer those questions, please?
Sure. With respect to the detention basins, there are.
You're still talking to me.
Yes, Mr. Chair. With regard to the detention basins, there are 3 different areas which all work together, which will provide adequate stormwater storage before discharging to the river, which then would course through your property. It meets all of the standards of the drain office as well as the state requirements. We've gotten permits with respect to the floodplain there as well. So there's no adverse impacts in any sort of stormwater situation. With regard to the delineation of the property line, we're not proposing that a fence be constructed. However, I believe by the installation of the landscape and the maintenance of the individual units that would be privately owned would create a demarcation of the limits of the properties. If anyone has an additional idea on that, if there's something we can propose to the owner, we certainly would entertain it.
Okay, I'll ask the planner also to offer, to weigh in on that too. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Your turn.
Thank you, Chairman. So the preliminary PUD for this project was approved back in 2022. At that time, we discussed this project in length, in details. The applicant proceeded to complete the engineering for this development, which they did. The only thing that I wanted to mention is that as far as the delineation for the properties, we don't require any screening or anything between the two single-family residential properties. They can install, anything that they want to do between those two properties as far as maybe a fence or arborvitaes, maybe to identify the property lines. But as far as that goes, there's no requirements on this end of the.
So there's nothing we could do to require it.
Right. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is this is a planned unit development. We ironed out a lot of the items. This is zoned currently R1C, which is single-family residential. They do meet the R1C zoning district standards as far as setbacks goes. However, I did want to mention that, and also the open space requirements, they are actually providing 4.32 acres on the west side of the property as open space for this development. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that as far as the Planning Commission comments goes, a performance bond must be posted for the landscaping. This is going to be determined by our engineer, what that bond should be. In addition to, just want to make a note that tree removal is not permitted at this time without a benefit of a tree permit. Provide confirmation of all the county and state permits. Whatever you have, John, I'll need those submitted to the department. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is there's quite a few lots that we have that relationship where the driveways meet each other. The township has a policy where we would like to see the driveways on one side of the street. Sometimes we can't always accomplish that because of the physical characteristics of the properties and the elevations of the properties. But if we can go back and look at some of those properties that have the driveway relationships that are right next to each other and maybe flip them where possible, I would like to see that. Other than that, this site meets all the other requirements of the zoning ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the planner? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
So our basis of the motion this evening are the following: compatibility with adjacent land uses, consistent with and promote the intent and purpose of the PUD, compatibility with the natural environment, consistent with the capacities of public services and facilities affected by the proposed use, protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and the adequacy of public access to the site. This evening, we may recommend approval, we could disapprove the request, or we could table it to evaluate it further. At this point, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Apone? Mr. Apone?
I move to approve to the Township Board for site plan and final PUD number 24-39 for Michael Magnoli, Great Oaks of Shelby Township LLC, 8707 25 Mile Road, parcel number 23-07-03-376-007, located on the north side of 25 Mile Road, west of M53 Expressway. The Oaks final PUD, based on the applicant submitting 8 sets of revised copies of the site plan addressing all site plan review comments from the Planning Commission, the site plan comments listed on the review, and the engineering comments.
Support.
Okay. To the petitioner, okay, so moved by opponent, support by Larray. Can we add a clause that a written PUD agreement is provided, submitted? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Pone?
Yes.
Commissioner Larray?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Casali?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Deschamps?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Good luck.
Thank you. Good evening.
Next item is under new business, election of officers. We have 3 to elect. The first being, are there any motions for the position of chair?
Yes. Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Moore.
I move to nominate Jerome Moffett as chairman, term expiring December 31st of 2025. Do you accept this nomination?
First, I need a support, but.
Support.
Is there support?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any
Yes.
nominations?
Yes, Mr. Chair, let's see, I nominate Mr. Phil Turner to serve as the vice chairman term.
First I had to close the nomination
Oh, sorry.
for chair, but,
I'm not going to take a new job.
well,
Oh, nominations for you.
You, yeah, okay. And
No,
without
sorry.
any others.
Did you get nervous?
What's that? Yeah, actually, a bit of a sigh of relief. She was getting nervous. No, I'm kidding. All right, no other
That's so funny.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all. So now, Commissioner Casali.
Thank you. I move to nominate Mr. Phil Turner as the vice chairman, term expiring December 31st, 2025.
Support.
Moved by Casali, support by Moore. Any other nomination? Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then finally, for the position of secretary, are there any nominations?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
move to support Raquel Moore as secretary, term expiring December 31st, 2025.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and support. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's that?
Are you going to training class?
I'm going to be in Florida. Planning Director's report.
Thank you, Chairman. A few items for you to report to you. At the meeting on the 27th, we are planning on having Mr. David Skirdo from Carlisle Wortman come in and give a high-level overview of legislation and procedures for the Planning Commission. I thought this would be a good thing to brush up existing Planning Commission members and some of the new ones that we've nominated so far. So hopefully everybody or most of you will be available at 5:30 on the 27th, right before our Planning Commission meeting. The room, we still have to determine what room it'll be in, but nevertheless, Mr. Skirdo will be here at 5:30 on the 27th to go over any questions that you may have and just give you an overview. The other item that I wanted to bring to your attention, the 2025 Planning and Zoning organization has some training workshops for elected officials and appointed officials. That brochure is in front of you. If you're interested in taking any of those classes, we'd be happy to support you and pay for those fees. If anybody's interested, just email me and we'll get that information and registered. Christy will register you and we'll send you off information as well. The third item is we also have a citizen planner program. I know that some of you have already gone through that program. It's a very, very informative program. If this is something that somebody is interested in attending, if you want to look at the brochures also at your in your areas, if there's something that if anybody is interested, we will also cover the cost on that program as well. So just let us know
So you
who's
keep
interested.
asking, you keep talking about these training, and you keep looking at me. I mean, this is bad. All right, thank you. With that, unless there are any other items, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're
Aye.
adjourned.